Hey YouTube, what's going on? This is Zach with Achilles Financial, and I hope you're ready to make some money this week. We have a lot going on, so let's go ahead and dive in. I am going to timestamp this video, but just to let you know, what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at the plays that I did last week, what I'm looking for this week, the dividends that I'm collecting this week. We've got our normal slew of economic indicators, and this is the important one because we've got the unemployment rate, which is definitely going to move that needle, as well as we've got a slew of earnings. So if you find this content helpful, if you've been making money, please drop a like below and subscribe. So let's talk about one thing before we really get started, is the fact that the internet today really dropped at one point in time. In fact, it went down for many major streaming services, for some major internet providers. And the reason that that happened is a company called Cloudflare that we've looked at here on the channel before as a good investment actually went down for a little bit today, and they blamed it on a third-party service. I don't know what went on there. I'm sure that by the time that this video comes out that we're going to see some additional details surrounding that, but I just want to let you know there may be a trade there. I'm going to watch it tomorrow and we'll pull Cloudflare up. However, that is why the internet was affected, and that may cause further skepticism surrounding some potential tech investments, just showcasing how the entire thing can drop. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, let's go ahead and talk about some of the trades that we're going to be doing, or rather that we did. As always, I double dipped on my Nvidia calls. I did that debit spread on Thursday that we talked about in my last video. I double dipped there and I went and got some more, but instead of doing the 220, 225, I did the 220, or rather the 520, 525. I did the 520 and 522 calls, and you can see those here. Now you can see those big investments here. Really, it only cost me, I think it was like 60 bucks a share or something like that. Whatever the difference between the two of these was, so it came out pretty nicely, and Nvidia bumped up. And again, my reasoning for that was the same reasoning I had on Thursday. On September 2nd of this week, we do have Nvidia is doing a major announcement surrounding its chip production, as well as in particular its new chips that it is going to be using for gaming. So there's a lot of interest there, and I think that the stock is going to continue to pop off. And we'll take a look at that here momentarily. But first, I do want to talk about some of the dividends that I have, and we're going to be looking at those. The reason for that is because I've got two of my dividend holdings pay me this week, as well as we also have one of my dividend holdings, Bank of America, goes ex-dividend this week, so there may be potential there. So the first company that I want to look at, you can see here on the screen, Pfizer. We talk about it all the time. I did want to get some more shares of this right after it went ex-dividend, because normally there's a little bit of a share price drop. As you can see, the stock shot up. It was about 50 cents. It was not a small move on Friday, just because I think some additional information is going to come out in the month of September surrounding some of the vaccine news. So I'm going to be getting 33 cents a share, and you can see this on TD Ameritrade. Here's the ex-dividend date. That is when you needed to hold it by, and I'm going to be getting 33 cents a share on the 1st, so on Tuesday. So looking forward to that. The other company that I have coming this week that I'm going to be getting those shares tomorrow is FTAI. Again, I think that if you don't have this in your portfolio, you are going to be missing out a little bit. And you can see that here, again, here is that annual dividend yield of 8.23% right now. I still like the company as a growth prospect, and I like the company as a dividend company. And you can see any manner of just how I trade FTAI or more about it here on the channel. I'll drop the video up in the top right hand corner now. So you can check out this company. It's one of my favorite investments, not only because of the dividend yield, but because they just continue to outperform. So I've got a 33-cent dividend per share coming this week. Last thing I want to talk about is going to be Bank of America is coming this week. And you can see that their ex-dividend date is September 3rd, so Thursday. The reason that I want to highlight this is because ex-dividend date means you need to own the stock prior to this date if you want to get that dividend. So I don't think that the dividend is as good as when we originally went after it. We talked about it earlier this year when the dividend was a little bit closer to 3%. However, I like Bank of America in my long-term portfolio, not necessarily something you're going to see a huge benefit from by the end of this year, in my opinion. Although that being said, at one point I was as much up as 12%. However, I've kind of averaged up purchasing more shares. So that's one of the things that I want to highlight. You will get 18 cents a share, and it is a very strong dividend. So if you want to do that, then you'll need to own the stock by the end of this week, really by that date. So I'll mention that one more time in one of my other videos this week, but just wanted to highlight that. So let's go ahead and go over to the economic indicators. So we are now back on the homepage for Achilles Financial, and this is on TD Ameritrade. What I really want to highlight here is we've got a number of economic indicators this week, and some of these are the ones that are going to move. So I have up on the screen, Tuesday is going to be the ISM Manufacturing Index as well as construction spending. I apologize if you are looking for more in-depth analysis over these two, but after the past 8 months, I have not seen the market move off this information. I think even if these surprise in a negative way, that we're not going to see any really reaction aside from maybe like Caterpillar for the construction spending. But even then, it didn't move last month, so I don't think it's going to move again this month. So just be aware of that. I'm not going to pay attention to this. I probably won't mention it again just because it's not something we've been watching and seeing the market actually have an effect from it. I also want to highlight on Wednesday, though, we will be watching auto sales and truck sales. The auto sales is something that's very important for a lot of our companies. I'm not necessarily referring to Tesla because I believe they've continued to perform very well. But I think Ford may have an opportunity here if we think that auto sales have rebounded back, which to my understanding, I really don't think they have. But again, the crude oil factory factory orders, some of those are going to be important. One of the key things that I want to look at is the fact that we're going to see the crude oil inventories. These were like maxed out like 2-3 months ago. So I want to see if that goes down. There may be a play on oil there, as well as the fact that we did have a hurricane hit in the Gulf, and that caused a number of refineries and factories to close down in preparation for that. So I think there may be an opportunity there if those prices, or rather if the inventories go down, as well as if the prices go up a little bit. The Fed Beige Book is another one that we're going to be watching. The reason for that is because that is when they detail their expectations going forward concerning the economic environment. So that is like Wednesday is when we start to see a huge slew of economic data that we need to be watching. The important thing I would highlight is most of those outside of the employment change happen after the market opens. So you may see that affect it immediately. Now, not necessarily something I want to look at, but when you see these factory orders, when you see that EIA crude oil inventories come out, you can sometimes play a short-term option, and when the info immediately comes out, you can sell it based off the volatility, but again, it may go the wrong way. So just be aware of that, but we may talk about that and see about doing that when that info comes out. So be watching those. For Thursday, we've got the initial claims and the continuing claims. One thing I want to highlight for Wednesday, the ADP unemployment change. That's something that's going to be very indicative of what comes out on Thursday concerning those initial claims, continuing claims. I believe that we are expecting some positive numbers here. The key thing is I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but what we really want to see is some excellent numbers, both this on Thursday for the initial claims and continuing claims regarding joblessness. But the important one is going to be that unemployment rate that comes out on Friday. And you can see that here. Again, 8:30 is going to be huge, and I think that that's going to set the pace for the market. I believe the current consensus right now is we're going to expect to see unemployment be under 10% for the first time since March. And you can see that right here. That would be very important, particularly if we beat this. I think that we could not hit that number. I think it could not be under 10%. but there's also the potential where we could drop to like 9.5%. And if we get a big beat like that, then the market's going to continue to moon as it already is. So that's what we're going to be watching. That's what we're going to be tracking. So let's go look at the plays, and then we'll check out some of the potential earnings we can look at. So I've got NVIDIA up here. The reason for that is because this is really the only active play I have open right now. However, it is 3 debit spreads, one with the 520, 525, and then one with the 522 and 525, or rather 520, 522. So if you see, this is the time I bought it. It dropped yesterday, and I still had a lot of, not yesterday. Let's go to the daily. It dropped in the morning still. I think it was this second candle down is when I purchased it. And then we just had a really big upswing. Again, I think a lot of this is momentum based off of the end of the, or rather the metric by which we potentially are going to see this company announce some big information on Tuesday. There's a lot of chip announcements this week. I just personally like to play NVIDIA because I think that it's going to come out with some awesome info, where AMD had a very similar reaction when they came out with their information concerning their new chips about 2 months ago. So this is what I'm expecting. I am already in the money. So if it expired today, I would already get maximum profit. Now what you see here on the profit loss is additional profit. I think my max profit in totality is like 660. And you can see that so far I am up 27%. And that is off of the initial cost of 384, and it is all the way up to 485. This is going to go up at market open because the two things that change this is time decay as well as volatility. So if it goes up at all, then I benefit. My plan is as soon as one of these options does hit the like 200 point in terms of really when the 522s, when if tomorrow, for example, NVIDIA went up to 530, I would close one of those, which would essentially make this play not necessarily free, but very close to it. So that's how I'm going to play this tomorrow. Again, if we just look at anything where we can see even something small like this, where a $2 or $3 move upwards, then I'm going to close one out and then let the other two ride. The way that these debit spreads work is it needs to close in the money. So as long as it is above 521, then I end with a profit. However, anything really above, I think it's 525.80, then I'll hit max profit, which will be right at a 200% gain. So that's what I'm watching. That's what I'm going to be checking out. Now we have a number of companies that are going to be announcing earnings this week. First and foremost, we do have Zoom that is going to be after close tomorrow. I just want to showcase real quick just because this one is a little crazy. They've been hanging close to still around their all-time highs. So if we look here, you can see they're still hovering around all-time highs. That is one of the concerns for me. The other thing is that these are not inexpensive, even on the weeklies. So you're talking, I mean, look at this price movement. So they're expecting it to go up by like another 4%, even higher than that, 5%. So it's looking to move. And the reasoning for that is one that concerns me. One thing that I may look to do is, I mean, I was looking at this yesterday, is on some of the spreads. So since it is looking to move, this is a relatively low risk option. But what we could do is we could sell the 250. I've also been looking at 260, but again, I do think that this is going to move. But right now, we're looking at the potential to, I can pick up $30 and I can put up 250 for collateral, so it's not like groundbreaking. But I think that that's pretty safe, and you can see I get $30 unless it goes under 250. So I kind of like that. Again, it's not going to make or break the bank, but I could essentially do that for tomorrow, and then when some of that volatility deteriorates, I can buy those back, and I still have my cash available for Tuesday. There's just a lot of moving pieces here, but I'm not opposed to putting up 250 for the collateral to see what I can pull through here. I like the Zoom play. There's some potential there. Also, that is going on this week. We've got DocuSign on Friday. This is another one that I'm going to be looking at. Again, you can see that we're still staying relatively close to where they were for all-time highs. I think that this is a company that is going to continue to stay around and become more important, but I don't know if I believe that what they are pitching right now is like they're the only ones that can do it. Adobe has also done incredibly well, and I like them if we're talking between the two of them, but that's one of the ones that I am going to be watching. So there's a lot of stuff out there this week. That's one of the ones that I really like. The other one that I'm going to be watching, not necessarily for this week, but is going to be CrowdStrike. And this is in the same vein as what we just talked about concerning the CrowdStrike is in the same boat as Cloudflare. So I apologize for that. I was getting them mixed up with Cloudera, who also has earnings on Wednesdays. But as you can see, this is a company that we've just seen a lot of run up. This is from that drop. They're at all-time highs. Even if you look at year to date, they've just blown it out of the water. Their stock price has more than doubled. So this is one I'm going to be watching just to see. Again, it has a big move potential, but still, as you can see here, the stock premium is very expensive. Not necessarily the same as Zoom, but there's still some potential here. So there's a lot to watch this week. I understand there's a lot going on in this video. I appreciate your support. Let me know if you have some plays for this week in the comments below. And if so, let me know. Excited. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you later.